folks, back on the Instagram world. Back to what I was saying about why I do these lives. Carl Pierre, ENTP Life. I'm just repeating what I said already on Instagram. I'm broadcasting on Instagram, on YouTube, and on Facebook. And here on ENTP Life, I mostly talk about real estate investing, business, different business ventures that I undertake, healthcare, home healthcare staffing, home healthcare, healthcare staffing, and other business ventures that I'm in outside of real estate. And I highlight that here just to give people a look at how they could go about doing the same, maybe some advice and tips, things that I wish I knew when I started, etc. So I share that all here. I also share my interest in investing in real estate, internationally, locally, and whatever else is on my mind. So the typical format, as I was explaining before, is that on Sundays, I release a new video. On Wednesdays, I follow that video up with a live like this, where we get to discuss exactly that topic. And that way I'm able to answer and address people's unique questions. Sometimes people aren't comfortable writing their questions in the comment section, or they think they won't get answered. But while we're live, they tend to ask questions, and it allows me to exchange with them. In the previous live, which was really cool, somebody was reaching out to me to discuss healthcare marketing or home healthcare marketing in his city. And we've been going back and forth via email, and he was watching, and I was like, you know what, let's bring you on live and have a real discussion so that other people with the same exact question can really learn something from the conversation. And I like to do that. So when people are asking questions really specific to something and we have time, I'll bring them on live if they're willing to, get in front of the camera, and we'll just hash it out, have a conversation, just like being at a bar or at a meetup or anything like that, where you get to trade ideas with people. So that's really what these lives are all about, just allowing me to tap into the community, trade ideas, talk to people. Usually when you're filming YouTube videos or social media content, it often feels like you're talking to yourself, because you are. It's just you and the camera. So having up people on the other side of that camera is always exciting, where we get to kind of vibe out. This also allows me to practice my speaking. I'm trying to eliminate the rights, those sort of things. It's a lot of work because they're so much, they're so ingrained in my vocabulary that I do it without even realizing it. So I try when I'm speaking here not to use those pause words, maybe pause audibly so that I'm able to gather my thoughts and continue the sentence without saying, right, those sort of things. So if you see that I'm falling into that rut, call me out on it just so I could refocus myself and try to avoid using those terms. All right. So we are 3 minutes in, probably 5 minutes on Instagram now, because I started with them first and I didn't have my live broadcast on YouTube. Once again, I would like to just talk about my topic first for the first 15 minutes. That way I could hit on the points that I think are meaningful, and then we'll go over to Q&A. If you prefer the viewpoint here on YouTube and you want to be part of the permanent record, so you could go back and look at that conversation, etc., YouTube is my preferred platform. Sorry, Instagram, but YouTube is my preferred platform. It's where I consume the most content. It's where I like to produce content. It's the platform that I like. Everybody has their platform, but I figured audience is growing on Instagram, so I'm trying here, Instagram crew. Alrighty. Now, before we get into it, if you personally know anybody who is interested in investing in real estate, who has invested in real estate, is a real estate agent, loan officer, appraiser, someone who you know that's connected in the industry and has expressed to you, or you have expressed to them, your interest in investing in real estate, coworkers, friends, families, whoever, you might as well push this out to them. Get them to check out this live so that they can learn a little bit about investing in real estate and learn about the program that I put together called Killing the American Dream, which teaches people how to invest in 1 to 4 family real estate here in the United States. I do some investing in Italy. I will be doing some investing in other countries throughout the world. However, the bulk of what I invest in and what I consider to be investment grade is in the States. It's dollarized. It's what I understand the best. There's plenty of programs and debt available to acquire. So that's what it is. If people are interested, share this content with them. That way you can start to build camaraderie and find out who amongst your crew are interested in investing, maybe alongside you at some point in the future. You guys go out and do a deal together. That's kind of what we're trying to develop here, a community of people that are like-minded, looking to do deals together, looking to grow together, looking to learn together. So definitely try to share this content with whoever you can. And make sure that at any point during this video, you hit the like button, you comment, you engage as much as possible. The way YouTube's algorithm works is that the more engaged the audience, like the more people who are staying on the videos, watching the videos, etc., the more likely they are to start pushing it as a recommended live that somebody else is, while somebody else is watching. They'll literally pop it up in the next video because it kind of matches their interest. So by you engaging with the content, it really helps to promote the channel, put out the word, and I definitely appreciate that. If you're not already a subscriber here on ENTP Life, housekeeping things, hit that subscription button. Make sure you turn on your notification bell. And I'll cover a lot of topics. Like I said, real estate, home health care, Airbnb stuff, aviation stuff. It's scattered because that's how I am as an individual. If there's something that you really like on this channel, personalize your experience by marking what sort of things you like. You could also just turn your notification bell on so you get all my videos, you don't miss a thing. Because YouTube, again, will only present to you my new content if it sort of matches your interests and your trends. You may miss out on content that might be interesting to you that you're not exposing yourself to because you haven't liked those videos on somewhere else on YouTube. So you have to really know how YouTube works to kind of get the best sort of information just fed to you. So you do that by hitting the subscription button, turning the notification bell on, and then there's an option to personalize it or have it on all. You pick your poison. Perfect. We're done with that. So awesome. Ian, just stay tuned. We'll talk. Like I said, first 15 minutes, we're just going to dive into what I'm trying to talk about, and then we'll move on to the questions, and that's kind of where things, to me, get more exciting. All right. So I started this program called Killing the American Dream, and it's based on my own beliefs that the American dream has somewhat been twisted and is dead. I'm an American. I really like America. It's allowed me to build a small fortune, which is not much in today's numbers, but it's a multi-million-dollar portfolio. And really, the thing that has happened, or what I see happening in our country, is this idea that you have to be like a cog in the machine. And upward mobility is somewhat stifled, right? Because the trend now is to kind of push people into this false narrative of the American dream, which is go to college. Nothing wrong with college. I went to college. College is a great place to learn things. But it's go to college. Typically, a lot of people take on student loan debt. Then it's get a job, fit into the machine. Then it becomes acquiring more liabilities. And that's where I really have a problem, because you're going to need education, right? You don't want to be an idiot. You don't want to be undereducated. You want to be properly educated so that you know how to potentially write, how to present information, how to consume information, how to search information. These are all skills that you need to have if you're going to be successful in this world. You're probably going to want to square away a profession. Don't go to college for a psychology degree or a sociology degree or maybe even an economics degree. None of those things guarantee you employment when you graduate college. Go to college and make sure you obtain some sort of profession, whether you're going to be an architect or an electrical engineer or an x-ray technologist or a nurse or a physician or an attorney. Come out of college with a degree that places you in a position to be employed, that you need this degree and this educational background to get this job. If you don't have this degree, you cannot get this job. A psychology degree, as far as I know, is not a prerequisite for any job. So that's my own bias. But if you had a psychology degree and I offended you, sorry. Okay, so that's that bit. But the thing is, that's where the dream starts to erode. You get your college education, you potentially paid too much money for it. You're not getting the return on investment. Maybe you took out some debt and you're now working a job. You're automatically encouraged to show as a sign of success the things, clothing, jewelry, footwear, accessories, first maybe starts with Coach, then you move on up to maybe Louis Vuitton, and then you might go even further depending on how much money you make. But those are like the levels, right? Or Kate Spade or Michael Kors. Insert whatever middle class luxury brand you want. You start to become a slave to these things. And then you start to see that, hey, you know what? The next step is to buy a house. You need to buy a dream house. Or maybe even dumber is you need to buy a starter house. And then graduate into a dream house when you're 40, right? So you buy the starter house when you're maybe 25, 30 years old. You have a 30-year mortgage, so you're going to pay for that house until retirement. That locks you into the system. That makes you feel like I need to keep this job or I'm going to lose this house. And if I bought a dream house, then I really need to, stick around at this workplace till I'm like 70 years old so that I could pay off my dream house that is too big for my family now because my kids are in college. This is a completely different rant. But this is the American dream that's sold to us. Then we're told to get married. Then we have kids. And now we have completed success. And maybe even pay for your kids' college education. That's like the next level. So that's how the dream that we're getting sold since we're like in school as a kid. Like this is what success is. Bury yourself in debt and material things. Work yourself till you're old. And then hopefully you survive a few years so you could enjoy retirement when you're too old to really walk or do anything active. That's not a dream to me. That sounds like a really long nightmare of a life. So the program was really designed to kind of help people break from that cycle of thinking by teaching them how to invest in real estate so that they're able to generate passive income through cash flow, right? That's going to either be cash flow from flipping properties where you're buying, renovating the property, reselling it for more than you paid for it, or cash flow through the spread between your obligations for the property and the rent that you collect. To me, it's one of the best ways to build wealth in this country. The country is kind of designed to favor the real estate investor. You get things like appreciation on your real estate that usually outpaces inflation, especially in good markets. You get depreciation, which is a tax write-off where you get to depreciate that asset over time. You get the cash flow from the property if you're investing properly, and you get more tax incentives besides depreciation because you're able to deduct out your property tax if you're an investor. You're able to deduct out your mortgage interest, once again, if you're an investor. That used to be standard for everybody, but Trump hooked up the middle class by taking that away, which is kind of crazy, but that's what happened. But as a real estate investor, you're still able to claim those items and mark them off as deductions against your personal income and your business income. So since you're able to generate cash flow, that's great. But the other thing is you get to generate what I consider to be long-term wealth. When you own real estate and you keep it and you rent it out, you get that cash flow that I talked about in the first situation. But if you invest properly where you have zero money tied into a deal, right? And that doesn't mean that you need no money to do the deal. Obviously you need money to do a deal, but you have $0 tied into the deal. At the end of it all, that's the ideal situation. You'll have some equity, usually 20 to 30%, sometimes more if you did a good job from day one. You'll have your cash flow, you'll have your equity, and then you get to benefit from that mortgage being paid down by somebody else, right? So it's, to me, every property that I own is a piggy bank that spins off interest for me. My bank is my house. My bank are these properties. So if you owned one property, let's just say you bought a $500,000 home in Westchester, New York, 2-family, rented it out for 30 years. It appreciates over that 30 years, hopefully. But it was paid off entirely by somebody else. And you had $0 tied into the deal after you refinanced and did everything that you needed to do, and you did it right. Essentially, somebody else would have placed more than $500,000 into your piggy bank. You have this asset that once it's paid off, spins off a significant amount of cash flow, especially compared to what Social Security will be projected to be, or even if it's still around. You'll be making more money than your Social Security. You'll probably be making more money than your pension distributions on just one property. You multiply that by 100 properties, 200 properties, 500 properties, then you start to really look wealthy. Also, that equity sits on your financial statement as part of your assets, right? They're going to be looking at what assets you own, what's the spread between your debt and that asset itself. And that contributes to your net worth. So when you're looking at getting loans for your business, looking at getting loans for more real estate, and you're presenting your financial statement, and you have all this real estate that's not only generating revenue and cash flow, but also has all this equity that's sitting there and growing. Every mortgage payment that's made, every single month, your net worth is going up as your mortgage is getting paid down. You're getting wealthier and wealthier just by adding more of these real estate assets to your books. It's something I've been doing since 2006. And I didn't think of it as strategically then. I started to buy real estate out of personal need, and then saw that there was the cash flow potential and then the wealth potential. And that's what hooked me in. So what I do now is I have other businesses. Those businesses pay me my income, produce profits. And then I try to take as much of my money as possible to reinvest it in other businesses, real estate, and other asset classes like stocks, or now I'm trying to buy cattle so that I'm invested in food sources. But that's my method. So Killing the American Dream is 14 lessons, 15 hours, showing you how I approach investing in 1 to 4 family real estate, how to build teams, how to get the money for the deals, how to analyze the deals, how to manage renovations and constructions, how to manage the property when you decide to keep it as a rental. Why should you keep it as a rental versus flipping it? When should you flip? When should you hold? When does it make sense? When does it not make sense? How should you get started? If you're doing your first deal, if you're doing your 5th deal, etc. Where do I get money from? How do I finance deals? All of that is in the program. And I designed it to have a few levels. Entry level is just a $97 per month payment. That's just for people who want to learn. They don't want to go all over the internet, looking for the same information. I've consolidated it into a straight line, showing you how to go about it step by step. The next thing is, this is just a vanity purchase that reflects me. Back in 2008, I went to the National Grant Conference free seminar, and I got upsold into a program for $2,000. However, that program, that upsell, I felt that I got scammed. I felt that I fell into the hype of that seminar, but it really lit a fire under me to recoup the money from that program. And I said, I got to find something in this freaking book that I'm going to extract my $2,000 out of. And what I found was the FHA 203K loan program. This was in 2008. I went ahead, I bought a property with that loan program in 2009 that I still own, that is probably up over $170,000 in equity today, and has been generating more than $1,000 cash flow since 2009 per month. So imagine how much I've made off of my $2,000 investment. Now, that $2,000 investment gets you lifetime access to Killing the American Dream and any other ENTP Life course that I put out next. I'm either putting out healthcare staffing or how to invest in multifamily, 5 and more units, and you get access to that. And one last thing that I did, and just to tie that all together, that option is, like I said, $2,000 lifetime access for as long as I'm hosting my ENTP Life channel. Not channel, but ENTP Life website with that program. Now, I did it that way because there's people like me out there who may have the $2,000 sitting around, may be impulsive, and they kind of need that kick in the butt to take action. If I spent $50 on it or $97 on it, I might be like, yeah, I'll check it out later. By spending $2,000 on it, it's like, I need to pay attention to this, because if not, I just blew $2,000 and I'm not going to be able to look at myself in the mirror. That's who it's for. So you don't need to buy into the $2,000 program. Like I said, I have the same exact program accessible for $97. It's just a choice. It's, like I said, what triggered me to really take my program seriously when I went to National Grant Conference, and it helped me. So I put it there as an option. The final bit is my invest and learn option, and that's discussed in greater detail in the program, but I'm going to talk about it here today because that's what this is about. The reason why I don't go around promoting invest and learn with me is because there's some SEC rules about raising capital publicly. Now, I'm not making an offer to invest in my company or anything like that. I'm just explaining how it's designed and why it's designed this way. Since I go to seminars, it's something that I do to try to learn, try to understand how the seminars are designed. I feel that every seminar, every YouTube video, everything that I watch, I learn something new. So I go to seminars still, and I went, but this was back in the National Grant Conference days. I went to one of the Flip That House guys seminars, Stan Merrill. Once again, free. They upsell you to either go into a weekend program or they upsell you into mentoring. So I had a few deals under my belt already, and I was like, I need to learn how to accelerate this process. So I was like, you know what? Let me go for the mentoring option. So when I went to discuss the mentoring option, they're like, yeah, it's $25,000, blah, blah, blah. They got excited at my interest. They got excited at the fact that I had invested and I had some business experience. So they're like, yeah, we got a sucker here who has $25,000 sitting around for our crappy mentoring. But since I'm no slouch, I offered them the opportunity to allow me to invest in a deal with them. So you guys are doing 1,000 deals a year, according to you. Why not let me get in one of those deals? And instead of me getting a profit from my investment, you keep my profits, and that covers my mentoring. And they were like, no. We're not going to do that. That's not how it works. And that's when I knew immediately that these guys were selling mentoring. They were selling BS. And I said, you know what? Whenever I'm in a position to develop my own program and do seminars and have a captivated audience, I'm going to create a mentoring option that would have worked for me, which is one where I'm not paying to be taught. I am investing in an actual deal with the people who do these deals and getting my hand held the entire time. And then I'm going to create that program so that they get the mentoring and they get to turn a profit. And that's where the ENTP Life, Killing the American Dream, Earn and Learn program was born. It's from that experience. So now that I am in that position, I've opened up this part of my business line. What happens is, regardless if you were on the $97 plan, $2,000 plan, if you come in for the Invest and Learn program, whatever money that you've already put into your education gets pushed towards the deal. And then you have to come up with a supplementary amount. Usually the minimum is $10,000, and it could be higher depending on the deal. But you come in for a fixed amount and you get a certain percentage of that investment. I have my first group. We did it the third quarter of this year. We picked up a property in New Jersey as a group. We have weekly meetings where we talk about the progress of that deal, the transactional stuff. We're now at the point that most likely next Monday, we should be listing the property. So we're expecting to make anywhere between $65,000 and $100,000 profit, depending on where we end up settling out, and depending on carrying time and broker's fees and that sort of thing. But we're looking at that much of a spread. So those who are invested in that program will get a percentage of that profit plus their initial investment back. So they got exposure to the deal, they got to learn the process, and they made some money. So that way you get true mentoring and you get some sort of return for it. And if you do this 2 times, 3 times or so, you should then have enough confidence to either go out and do your deals on your own, or decide that maybe managing deals on your own isn't for you, and that you would continue to just invest in deals alongside the group or something like that. It's my way of really forcing people to do a deal. A lot of people say, I want to invest in real estate, and then they never pull the trigger. This is the way to get them to pull the trigger on killing the American dream. Okay. That's how the program is designed. That's why it's designed that way. And people will always say, well, Carl, if you're doing well in business, and this is things I see on the internet too, if you're doing well in business and you're doing well in real estate investing, why do you have a course, and why are you charging money for it? First of all, a lot of what I cover on the YouTube channel for free. It's just scattered all over the place. Second of all, I'm never going to pass on an opportunity to make more money. Third thing is that I get asked all the time. You could look through my comments, you could look through my DMs. I get asked all the time, can you mentor me? Can you answer this question? Can you? And it's like, at first you start to answer it because you're just excited that somebody's even asking you something, right? You have 200 subscribers. Somebody asks you a question. It's like, woo, thank God somebody's even paying attention. Let me just cycle this out. Somebody's even paying attention. And then you turn around and say, all right, you answer their question. You took 30 minutes to write out a comment or an email, and fantastic. But then your numbers grow and you get to a point where it gets difficult to answer those questions. Even me doing my YouTube channel was to start answering my friends' questions. How do you invest in real estate, Carl? How does flipping work? I got tired of saying the same thing over and over again, that my first video here on ENTP Life is me investing in a deal and how it works. You could go back and check it out. That way I started to have just a link that I could share. Oh, you want to invest, you want to flip real estate? Okay, watch this, and it should answer a lot of your questions. Get back to me if something was, not said. When volume got to a certain point, I said, okay, it might be time to build out this program that I always had in mind from that experience with those flippers. Because I think those bastards are taking advantage of people. And they're taking advantage of their celebrity, the proximity that they're selling to you. You could check out all those programs. It's all the same crap. Bus tours, you get to meet the guy, take a couple pictures, and next thing you know, you're down $25,000, $30,000, $50,000, and you haven't done one deal. To me, that's ridiculous. If you're putting money up in the thousands, you better be getting some return on investment other than some picture in a bus ride. That's asinine to me. I just don't think that's okay. So our program is designed for people who really want to make some sort of progress, not get ripped off like that, and in a way that I think is sincere and the best method that I have for me. The final bit to all of this that fits into my overall idea is that this is something that's sold on a national level, right? There's no border. The United States, this program is available. It's investing in the US. There's other markets that I want to get into, like in Texas, in Georgia, in Baltimore, Maryland, in Chicago, but I physically can't be in all these places. However, if there are people who are in my program who are investing in Milwaukee or what have you, and they know that market well, and they turn around and say, hey, Carl, I found this deal. I got 30 grand. I'm short $30,000. I have the team in place, just as you taught. Let's do the deal together. I'm like, hey, you know what? The numbers on this deal are pretty good. Why not? Fly out to Milwaukee, check out the property, put my money up, do a deal. And I could even still coach him and make sure that the deal goes well because my money's in there too. And then now I'm starting to invest in multiple markets with people who know my strategy, who know my method. They'll be able to identify properties. They should be turning a profit. And when it's time to do bigger capital calls or do larger deals, I now have a larger network of people who see the real estate market the same as me, who could go out and do deals with me. So that's the full story and full crest for the program and why I have this invest and learn option, or this earn and learn option, as I'm calling it. That's it. Now I'm ready for the questions. So let me wave to everybody here on Instagram who stopped by and said, what's up? Whoever's still in, I got 5 people watching still. That's the problem with Instagram. The attention span is so short, but it is what it is. I don't know how to appeal to that crowd. Okay. So let me break out these questions. If you haven't liked this video already, please make sure you like it. First question, Ian Medina. Hi, Carl. I'm an architect and I have a lot of projects to build, but with the money that I have, I can't do much. Should I acquire some loans? Yeah, but there's a lot to be answered here and some follow-up questions. You're an architect. Architects are not developers. They're artists first. And young architects tend to be enamored by design, and they can't quite make financial sense of what's a good use of money in a deal versus a not so good use of money in a deal, because they're going to always be looking for pushing the envelope design wise. That doesn't always make sense in every market. So younger architects who are getting started tend to have that in their heads, and it's going to lead to some trouble. However, since you are an architect, I would say you could either go at it alone and get some loans, raise money, however you want to do it. But I would most likely partner up with somebody, maybe a flipper. It could be in your local market, it doesn't have to be me. And that's your value add to that team. I'm an architect. I could draw floor plans. I know what design elements are kind of in trend these days. I know how to make a space feel larger, feel better, etc. A lot of flippers aren't designers. They either are doing horrible design work, right? That was maybe popular 15 or 20 years ago. They're doing horrible design work. You guys have seen them on listings like, why did somebody use this backsplash that hasn't been in since 2005? So you see those sort of things. So flippers obviously want to extract the most value. So you could turn around and say, look, I know how to design. Let me know what your budget is, what your parameters are. And you can make arguments for why this backsplash for $2 more per square foot, why that's going to make a difference. It's maybe going to help you sell faster. It's going to make the kitchen pop better in pictures. Whatever your argument is, talk to them about you adding that value, and that's your contribution. And they can do deals with you, and they can scrutinize a deal from the developer's or the investor's perspective to make sure that your allocations and your suggestions make financial sense for that market. I think that's a good pairing. Loans, if you just go out and get a loan and you start working off your ideas, I almost guarantee you're going to screw yourself. Joel, I agree with you. To hell with the liabilities. Education's out there and it's free also. Yeah, it is. There's tons of free education. Hi, Carl. What is your current real estate portfolio? So I have a blend of commercial real estate, which absolutely is terrible right now, and residential real estate. So it's right under 17 or 17 million range if I tally it all up in real estate assets that are either owned or controlled by me. By control, I'm talking about I have long-term leases on them. So it's a rent-to-rent strategy. So that's about, I would say, half of the portfolio at this point. The other half are 1 to 4 family homes between New York, New Jersey, and here in Florida. So like my newest acquisition that was this year, I picked it up this summer. It's a 3-family home in Coral Ridge. I picked it up for $600,000. It appraised for $900,000. I'm putting $115,000 of work into it. So right there, you see, I'm adding about $200,000 to my net worth, and it's a rental property that I'll own, be able to Airbnb, rent it out, whatever, cash flow, and that right there adds close to $1 million to my overall portfolio. I have properties that are down in the $200,000 range. I have some in the 3s, some in the 4s, some in the 5s. So it's a mix of that. I think in total it's more than 20 properties at this point. I'd have to kind of go through the addresses and count. I know that right now, let's just say active new deals that I have. I have 8 active deals going on right now that are either being renovated for rent, renovated for resale, in contract, getting ready to be sold. That's 8 properties that are still in the process of being finished. And then I have like another 20 that are already on the books, rented out, kept, haven't been flipped, etc. Then I have my commercial spaces, which is a shared office space called Solar Spaces. It's in New York City on 35th Street. It was across 2 floors. Now it's just one because I had to give up some of it. Shared office space is getting absolutely wrecked by COVID. And we're on the fence of even surrendering that space or trimming it down again. So that's going to affect my portfolio at large. And then I have my small Italian properties. I have 2 properties in Italy. They're not worth much. They'll probably be worth around $50,000, $60,000 when it's all said and done. So if you haven't seen that, you can check that out. I picked one up for 5,000 euros, another for 12, renovating them now. I believe they should be worth around 30,000, 40,000 when they're all done. Well, the bigger one will be worth around 30, 40 when it's done and renovated. The small one would probably be worth around like 25 or so. So that kind of rounds it out. Most of the property is concentrated in Long Island, New York, Westchester, and Orange County, New York. Then I have some in like Northern Jersey, like Newark, Patterson area. Doing one of that invest and learn deal in Bergen County. So it's pretty spread out like that, trying to get to a total of 100 million. So about 20% there, or 17% there. And what assets do you hold? Resi, commercial, etc. I think I answered that question. I'm looking to purchase in cash land first, then we'll see. So you're gonna just tie up land and do what? How are you gonna monetize that land? Why would you tie up the land in cash? Is it in a rapidly growing area? Why would you do that? I wouldn't do that. You can always pitch a tent in the meantime, right? I guess so. Ryan, what's going on, man? I don't know if he's still here, but thanks for chiming in. I checked out Ryan's channel. It came up on my feed. He's got a podcast now. Actually, I started following him a while back. He was doing a flip. I want to say like he's based in like the Rust Belt, maybe Ohio. I don't know if I'm correct. Maybe Jersey. I'm not sure. But I saw him walking through a property. I followed him a few months back, and then I saw his podcast. And since I'm thinking about starting a podcast, his podcast looks pretty clean, man. I like how it's set up. Really good camera angles. The lighting is great. So good job to you. So I reached out to him today. I said, I want to get on that podcast. He says that the 2 or 3K is great. Yeah, it's a great way to get started. Very low cost to enter. Gives a flipper experience, or someone who wants to be a flipper, because you're going to have to manage the renovations. You're going to have to work all the same moving parts that you would on a flip, except it's a little slower, like it is for the FHA program. But it's like training wheels for being a flipper, and you have to put out less cash. So 3.5% down. Finance your renovations. You get a consultant to help you out. It's very structured. It really sets the tone for a flipping career. Congratulations, man. Where about? Robert Campbell. Can you use business credit as your stake/entry into the deal? Yes, you can. You would be able to use business credit if you wanted to. That's your prerogative. As long as the money is legal. I really don't care where you get it from. The thing that I care about the most is that you're not stressing yourself out to invest in the deal. I don't think anybody should invest more than they can tolerate. So if you're taking out business credit, make sure that you have the underlying cash to service that debt. So let's just say it was 20 grand and your payment's 300 a month or whatever it would be, probably 400, something like that. And you're tying that money up for 6 months, maybe 9 months. Make sure you have the underlying cash so that you're not stressed out, and make sure that obviously the profit that's being turned on the investment is going to be more than your debt service so that the deal makes sense. But if you want to use business credit, you could go for it. Cool. Cool's my former roommate. He lived in the very first property in Stony Brook, New York, back from about, I think, what you were there 2006 to 2008, right? He was there. But Koo's one of my buddies. Great question, Robert. We'll see. Yet sites like Plastic or Melio allow you to convert biz credit into wire transfers. That's something I didn't know. I don't even know what those sites are, so I'll have to check those out. Lorianne Richardson, how do you decide where the group investment will be? What state, what city? So I decide based on where I have resources. So right now my teams are in the New York City area. So within 100 miles of New York City is kind of the max range. So that could be 100 miles east, 100 miles north. So as far as Newburgh to the north side and down to Union, New Jersey-ish area, and that kind of circumference. So it could be Westchester, Rockland, Queens, the 5 boroughs, but I almost never invest there because the numbers don't make any sense. Then Nassau, at least for my strategy, doesn't make sense. Nassau, Suffolk, Orange, Rockland, Putnam counties are where I invest. Then northern Jersey, all the way up until northeast Jersey down to Union will be the area. Here it's going to be Broward County, which is where I am. It's where my contractors are now. I'm working on one project here. For that reason, I try to encourage people from the Northeast to do the invest and learn so that they're close enough to the properties to go there and see them, walk the properties during different phases of construction. We'll do that. You could come to the house, meet the contractors. If it's a weekday, during the day. If it's a weekend, you'll just walk through with the project manager so you can kind of point out a few things. We also share that information in our weekly videos. So if there was something that was unique or different, like in this house, there was this weird gas line leak that we had to open up the wall and find it. The gas line wasn't holding pressure. So we found the leak, sealed the leak, and there was a hole for 2 floors in the house. It was the riser that went to the air handler in the attic that had a leak. So those sort of unique situations, you get to see it and understand how this could be a problem. Maybe we should have pressure tested earlier, but we didn't have, we were moving ahead of the schedule. So it cost us a few $100 to make that change. But if we just sat around waiting for a month, it would have cost us more between interest and taxes. So, you got to pick your poison. So things like that we'll cover. But if you want to see it in real life, then, it would either be in one of those 2 markets, higher probability, like I would say 90% probability is going to be in New York. Thank you. Have you decided where you'll be investing next for the mentoring group? I think I just touched on that, but I would say with about 90% accuracy, it's going to be New York, Northern New Jersey. Nice pants. I understand the 1% rule to be used as a good filtering mechanism for acquiring rental properties, but what other criteria do you use for selecting properties? So aside from the 1% rule, I wonder if I have any questions here. Not even one question. Oh, wait. Okay, I'm going to answer this question, and I'm going to answer some of the Instagram questions so that they're at least addressed. And I have 8 minutes. I'm going to try to make it quick. So aside from the 1% rule, that's just a quick blanket number. Another thing that I look at is whether or not the property is going to fall below like 70%. If I'm looking at it as a rental, I want it to fall below 70% of the after repair value. The reason for that is that my lender, my rapid refi lender, will cash me out at 75%. So that 5% kind of covers fees and miscellaneous. And if it's below 70%, then I even extract some positive cash flow from the refinance out. I get to take out some debt that I use as however I want. So I try to keep it that way so that there's enough of a equity spread that if I needed to refinance, which is almost always, I'm not going to trap money. And then if I were to turn around and sell that property in a year or two, there's still a good amount of equity in that deal that it works as a flip. So that if I owned it for 2 or 3 years or 5 years and cash flowed on it for 5 years, I know that when I sell it, there's still some meat on it. I really don't recommend people to buy market rate properties, even if it produces 1%. If you buy a market rate property, when you decide to sell it, aside from tying up 20,000 or 20% to 30% in that deal, when you go to sell it, you're potentially going to lose money, especially if you sell it in a year or two. So I always try to buy undervalued properties, force their appreciation through renovations, and then turn around and adhere to the 1% rule and have like at least 20% equity spread. So 80% into after repair value. That's like the minimum criteria. I also like properties that have more than one income stream. So it's a house with a finished basement. It's a house across the street from a college that I could kind of chop it up and rent it out by the room. Or it's a 2-unit, 3-unit, 4-unit. That way I'm able to get some insulation from payers. Like I have one property that one tenant just upped and moved out today. And then I have another empty unit there. So I have 2 units empty. One's a basement, one's a little studio. And then the main portion of the house, the 3-bedroom portion of the house, is still rented. The rent from the 3-bedroom portion alone covers our mortgage. So my cash flow is gone, but those are a basement, which I'll be able to rent out in a snap. And then my other unit, I'll be able to rent out probably within the next 2 weeks. And then I'll be back to cash flowing closer to $2,000 on that property. So I like to have like that, I guess, hedge built in by having multiple units or multiple ways to monetize the property. Okay. So Ben, who's my video editor, I don't edit all my videos. Ben edits the majority of them. So Ben edits my videos, and he asked, what's your biggest fear when you started, and how is it now? I would probably say my biggest fear was being wrong. I don't really like to be wrong. I like to be right a lot. I'm not really afraid of losing money. I've lost lots of money in stock transactions and some bad real estate deals, bad business opportunities. So money is not something that freaks me out. Credit getting damaged is not something that freaks me out either. I've been there and recovered, so that's not like a fear point. I just don't like to be wrong. I don't like to go out and say, yo, I'm going to do this thing, I'm going to be successful at it, and then have to come back and be like, yeah, that thing didn't work out. That's probably the worst experience for me is to be wrong, more so than being wrong and losing money. Right. So that's probably my biggest fear. There's another question here. Toyin is actually in contact with me. She's trying to buy a house in Westchester. And I have a construction company that's licensed in Westchester. So that's how we connected. What's your take on buying land and using prefab homes? Would this be a good investment? I haven't done it. And lending on those prefab homes can be kind of tricky. Some lenders don't like to lend on manufactured homes or offsite homes. And that's kind of a weird area. So you would have to find a lender that's comfortable with that. And you would have to make sure that that prefab home, like I said, if there's lenders who aren't comfortable lending that way. So if a lender is not comfortable lending that way, Jesus, 2 minutes. If the lender is not comfortable lending that way, what ends up happening, Toyin, is that you might eliminate half of the market when it's time for you to resell that property. It may be a good property for you to live in. You don't care. You find a lender that would approve it. But when you go to sell it on the open market, lenders at that point may say, we don't deal with manufactured homes. Maybe one manufacturer, they were using bad products from China or wherever, and they just don't lend on that manufacturer's homes or something like that. You don't want to get caught in something like that. So I haven't done any manufactured deals. I've looked into them. It's kind of cool. It's quicker builds, that sort of thing, because they're building mostly offsite, but I haven't bought one. And when I talked to my lenders about it, they were kind of like, yeah, we don't know about that. So that made me think that over. All right. So one more question on Instagram, because that's about to cut out. Master Thrower 29. I'm looking to get into real estate flipping properties. I'm looking to get into real estate. Okay. And he has a question mark. I don't know what the question mark is. So skipped. Okay. That's it. Hey, Carl, I'm 20. Do you deal with people not thinking the way you do as an entrepreneur? Also, do you think getting your real estate license can benefit you as an investor? People are going to think differently than you. That's going to be a reality of life, no matter what it is that you're doing. Your partners who are even in the same business as you can think differently than you. They're your partners, but they have a different perspective. So you have to learn to decipher when you have to come up with an objective method of making decisions, so that when people are disagreeing with you, you bring them to the facts and you evaluate the facts and make a decision based on the facts. Sometimes you're just wrong, and that's it. And the facts will prove you wrong. So if the facts prove you wrong, then you don't do it. If you're debating beliefs, you're going to be debating all day. As far as getting your real estate license, I think it could be beneficial because you're going to be able to generate money from transactions. You're going to be able to charge fees. You're going to be able to collect fees on you buying a property. You still get your commission if it's yourself. So there's some advantages. You can solicit in different ways depending on your state and their rules. So if that was going to be like your way of getting some education and your toe in the water, you'll at least learn some of the processes. You'll learn the terminology within the industry. Being a real estate agent does not qualify you to be an investor, though. Two completely different things. Real estate agents are there to walk people through how to transact and how to carry a transaction, how to capture what's the essence of a contract. So there's so many real estate agents that I talk to that really just don't understand the investor's mindset at all. So I would say there's something to be gained there, but it's not real estate investing. It's real estate knowledge and real estate access to a market. There's some pros to that, but don't think it's going to prepare you for a career as an investor. Last question on Instagram, Toyan's question. My feelings on Newburgh. I actually kind of like Newburgh. I was about to do a deal in Newburgh pre-coronavirus, and the deal, it was actually to purchase 3 properties from one seller. And the deal fell apart because they really weren't looking to move on the price, and there were some issues with the property and how it was registered with the city. Newburgh is pretty litigious with their buildings. They're trying to, there's part of it that's historic. So of course you have to abide by those rules. And also there was so much crappy construction done that the building department is really on edge. But there's really nice parts of Newburgh right along the river. Old architecture. It looks like Brooklyn to a certain degree. If you like that feel, since you're from New York, you know what I'm talking about. So it's a lot of row houses, a lot of brick properties. There's these huge brick Victorians that they have out there that are really nice. They have they're pretty nice. So it's kind of sectional, and also certain parts of Newburgh could be kind of rough. I think their numbers are okay. There is Stewart Airport there, so you have a Class C airport, international airport. I just haven't done a deal myself in Newburgh. We're actually renovating a project for somebody that reached out to me on social media. We're doing his project in Newburgh. I could kind of let you know how that goes. Toyin, no, I'm gonna tell you one thing that I notice about you. Sometimes I do this, so brace yourself. You're asking a lot of questions that are kind of like scattered. If you are consuming too many strategies on social media, you're gonna be all over the place. You really need to identify, that's my 1 hour mark. You really need to identify what you truly want. What do you value the most? Don't try to get too creative with the type of transaction that you're going to do, because a lot of those creative transactions that you're seeing people on YouTube talk about is years of experience to get to the point, right? When you see somebody on YouTube talking about flipping real estate or doing deals, by the time that you've seen them, they have enough of a following. They've been doing it for years, right? You might see somebody, 100,000 subscribers. They might be at year number 3 or 4 of their YouTube channel doing this thing. And that might be year number 10 of them doing that type of deal. So it may come off as easy because you just watched it in 10 minutes and it sounds exciting. You see somebody else making money. So you're like, okay, this looks good. Don't fall into that too much, because like I said, you're going to be looking at different neighborhoods. You're going to cast too broad of a net, and then you're going to pull up tires and boots and scrap fish and that sort of stuff. So really try to narrow your attention down to what you truly want, and know why you want that. Not because somebody else is doing it. Know that, hey, this is going to be good for me because I really value house hacking, or I really value having additional income, or I really value buying things under market price, or I really value just safety. Whatever your top priority is for you, what's really meaningful for you is what your strategy should kind of center around. So later, Instagram, and I'm going to just close out here on YouTube as well. But thank you very much for joining me. Like I said, I love these questions. I love to interact. If I pick on you a little bit, it's really for what I think is best for you. And it's just my opinion, right? Sometimes it's factual. Sometimes it's my opinion. So I'm going to share it. but I don't mean to hurt people's feelings. If your feelings get hurt, I'm sorry. It's really meant to protect you from somehow making a mistake or just like getting stuck in a circle of educating yourself. All right. Um, I can't say that too much education is no good, but when it's a lot in a lot of different places, it's bad. Like for me, for example, I'm in a lot of different businesses and it gets overwhelming. And it actually takes away from the quality of some of the work that I do. I'm looking at my to-do list. It's scrambled between software, real estate in multiple states, and home care operations in more than one state. It's a lot, and it degrades the quality of the work and my attention. So it's my own problem as a person with attention deficit disorder and someone who's an ENTP personality type. It's my problem. If I see somebody else kind of going and doing the same thing, I'll always tell people focus up, because I wish I was one of those type of people that could just do one thing and focus on one thing, because I would crush it even more than I do now. So that's just my advice to you. So don't take offense to it. Be well. Share that. Update all that other stuff later. Okay, I'll update that. Perfect. So now I'm going to just answer the next few questions here, and I try to balance the time. So sorry about kind of the offset camera there. Next question, Elias Raman. Do you prefer having partners or enjoy doing things yourself? That depends. When you have partners, you can share responsibility. So it takes, the burden off of you. It helps you spread the risk. That's one of the benefits. You have to spread your profits as well. And like I said, you get to share ideas, kind of scrutinize each other's methods. I think partnerships are better in general. They're going to allow you to potentially achieve more, especially if you are developing really good partnerships. But the benefit of doing a deal solo is that you don't have to deal with other people's opinions. Could it be good? Could it be bad? I tend to do a lot of deals with people. Sometimes I'll bring on silent investors. Sometimes I'll bring on some of my active partners. Sometimes I do deals independently. Sometimes I do these invest and learns. I like to interact with people. So I guess I would say I favor partnerships, but I don't really have a true bias one way or the other. Goliath, what's going on? Could you talk about cattle animal proteins? That's one of the type of businesses that are normally included with a fazenda in Brazil. Okay, so off topic, but I'll talk about it for a little bit. The farming and animal proteins. I met a dude flying back from Turkey who was importing cattle from Brazil to Turkey. That was his strategy. Rather than breeding, he would go and buy like teenage cattle, load them on a ship with food, grow them on the ship, mature them on his farm. And the thing is that cattle would grow while it's in transport. Not his maintenance, not his whatever. He just needs to make sure that they're stocked with food. And the companies that do this make all the provisions. So I thought it was clever. I was like, man, you know what? I never thought about investing in cattle or animal proteins. And then we started talking about the numbers and whether like being the farmer selling to the slaughterhouses that sell to maybe the local butcher, and how many times there's a markup. And then I started thinking about, well, what about if you raise your own cattle and you created your own distribution channel, which is pretty tough. But I started thinking about it in that way. And essentially, most people who are farming cattle are making like a double on their money, especially in depressed areas where wages aren't high. So let's just say in South America, you have the land. A lot of the farmland is fairly cheap. The labor is cheap. Most of the time, the animals are just grass fed and organic, so that you're not pumping a lot of money into antibiotics and stuff like that, and feed. They're just eating grass. So you can kind of double your money in 12 to 24 months. So I think by buying young cows and raising them, you're almost hitting a double. So that started getting me interested. So that's why I'm looking at it, because it's something that satisfies a true human need. That's what I like about investments, like real estate. It satisfies a true human need. Humans need shelter. Humans need food. Humans need water. Humans now need energy. They also need Wi-Fi at this point. It's become a need in this world. So I like to try to align they need healthcare and to maintain their organism. So I like to be in businesses that satisfy human need. It kind of makes it less difficult to obtain a client. So that's why animal proteins. Can one get a HELOC for a property that's owned by an LLC? Not that I've never gotten one. A lot of the time, the home equity line of credits are on primary residence. The HELOC days on random properties, that died in the last bubble. Yep. No, I'm not sure what that yep is in response to. Hey, my name is Brock. I'm 20. Thanks for the content. It's helped a lot. You're welcome. Do you think Indiana is a good market? And do you think getting your real estate license would become, I don't know if I was just talking to you on Instagram. I think you're the same person, BK Hoops. Indiana can be a good market. I know that Indianapolis has been going through a bit of a renaissance for, like, especially in the downtown area. I actually bought my plane in Indiana and was talking to people on that trip in Kokomo, Indiana. So I think as long as the numbers make sense, and maybe if it's in Indianapolis, or like right in the outskirts of Indianapolis, where maybe things are changing, I would say, I know there's a growing tech scene in Indiana. I know there's pretty, I guess, progressive universities there. That's another draw. So I would say, yeah, just it depends on the city that you're in. And if the numbers in that city make sense, I don't care what city you're in, as long as you're buying the best real estate and the best deal that you can find, and that best deal is going to be defined by the numbers in that deal. So I'm not partial to any particular market. I like markets that have no state taxes on your income, like Florida, Texas, Tennessee, Nevada. I like states that are also landlord friendly, where it's easier for you to process people out of your home if they're not paying, unlike it is in New York, where people could not pay you and you're basically out of luck. Okay. This Damien's question at 9:09 is the last one, and I'm out. All right. So what type of real estate would you invest in with $50K cash in the Fort Lauderdale area? Okay. So I'm still learning the Fort Lauderdale area. But with $50K cash, I would say my rule of thumb is that you should have about 30% of what the deal is going to cost in cash. So if we were to reverse that, I would say you're probably going to be looking at $200,000 to $300,000 deals, something like that, like in the $200,000 range, the after repair value, 250-ish, because you're going to want to be all in for like 160, 170 if you're selling at 240, 250. Now, where is that possible in the Fort Lauderdale area? You're going to have to start moving into some of the sketchy neighborhoods. So With 50K cash, I think you're kind of tight. Because if I were doing, like, let's just say I purchased my deal in Coral Ridge for 600K cash, and then I refinanced out of that bad boy last month. So if I were doing that deal with hard money, I would want to have between 150 and 180 liquid, because they're going to want me to be in for 15 to 20% of the project cost or of the asset purchase. So on the 600K, they would want me to put up 120. And then I'd probably going to want $50,000 to $60,000 of float money in that deal, because I want to be able to cover any miscellaneous fees. I might have to float or pre-fund some of the construction cost while I'm waiting to get reimbursed on my hard money. So I would say about 30% is the rule of thumb for how much cash you should have for the type of deal that you're doing. So look at areas where you could buy and renovate properties in that like 150 to 180 range. And they're going to be some of the more hood neighborhoods, but the numbers may still be there, right? You may have a deal that you're doing for 160, 170, 180 with a 250, 275 after repair value. The numbers will start syncing up where you could maybe have a duplex at that price point. If you get a duplex at that price point, I would say that's pretty good, because you can rent out each unit, right? Cash out your money, have your 50K back, but still own the property, and then rinse and repeat and do that again. You can start building your portfolio that way, and just using the same $50,000 over and over again, so that at least each time you do one of those flips, you're now $50,000 richer, and you have a little cash flow. And if you decided in 2 years, all right, I'm going to sell 4 of these properties, now you cashed out 200 grand, maybe a little less, but you cash out 200 grand, and now you have 250 to start doing maybe deals in nicer neighborhoods or bigger sort of deals. That's kind of what I would do. Elias, I'm not sure when you jumped in here, but for more details on the Invest and Learn, I would say you reach out to me via email, and maybe we could talk about that offline. But it's really structured in a way where you're coming in for at least $10,000. You get full access to my program. You get a certain equity position in that deal, and we're trying to cash out of that deal in 6 to 9 months on average, depending on market conditions and that sort of thing, how quickly the renovations took place. And you should turn a profit. Chris Evans, Michelle. Hey, Carl, have you ever had a bad experience with a tenant, and do you recommend Section 8, or do you screen the tenants yourself? Chris, I have a video on my opinions on Section 8. You could watch that. I have Section 8 tenants. It's up to you to screen people. Just because they have Section 8 doesn't make them a bad person. That just makes them the recipient of a government voucher. They could be outstanding people who take care of your house, people who are really good people, who just have the financial need and qualify for the program. What does that have to do with who they are? So it's up to you to make the character call on all. You could have a cash paying tenant who's a complete nightmare. I've had that. I had these. Oh my God, I had these tenants, deadbeat kids, whose parents were paying for their drug use and pathetic lifestyle. And then they wrecked my apartment. They got to a point that it was just gross. And they were complaining to mommy that their apartment was gross, and mommy stopped paying me rent. And then when mommy realized that her sons were freaking jack, I can't say that because they're going to bleep me, but that her sons were just a waste of life, she stopped paying. She stopped helping them. Nobody was paying. Then I had to go through like a 9-month eviction process. And then, yeah, that was a bad situation. And that's probably my only horrible situation that got to that point. most tenants are good people. And the better that you screen them, the better off that you are. The mother checked out really well. And she was, I'm renting an apartment for my sons. They're in college. We moved to another state. They didn't want to move to the new state. The reality is her kids were deadbeats. They wanted to stay with their deadbeat friends. They dropped out of college, smoked weed all day, and wrecked my house. So, she was a really nice woman. She was a nurse, good income. She was making 80 times their rent. So collection wasn't an issue from her until, they started to manipulate her. Brandon, what's up? Hey, champ, I'm from Baltimore. I remember you saying you was looking to invest in that area. Yeah, I keep saying it. Are you buying gut rehab multifamily in Brooklyn? Am I buying gut rehabilitation multifamily in Brooklyn? I am open to that, as long as the numbers, once again, make sense. Numbers in Brooklyn tend to be pretty. I have to date. Listen, I'm a New Yorker, or originally from New York. From 2006 to present, I have not done one deal in Brooklyn. Because in 2006, 2007, Bushwick was starting to turn. Williamsburg had already made its turn. Bed-Stuy had already started to turn. Of course, Dumbo was well beyond what it is today. These neighborhoods had already turned, and Bushwick in East New York and Ocean Hill or Brownsville, whatever you want to call it, those neighborhoods were like the last frontier of Brooklyn. And I have such a tarnished image of those neighborhoods that as they were starting to turn, I was looking at 3-family homes in Bushwick when they were 400,000. Then I was looking at them when they were 600,000. I was like, no way, this is absolutely insane. 700,000. Now they're 1.2, 3, 4, 1.6 for the same 3-family structures. And I missed it entirely. So I kind of have like this bias on Brooklyn that I always feel like the market has topped out, that this just doesn't make any sense. So if you're going to present a gut rehab in this market with people leaving New York City like wildfire, I'm already coming up with reasons why I don't want to touch it. And that's just my bias on Brooklyn. But if you want to send me the deal, you could send me the deal so I could take a look at it and see if it's something that I would want to mess with. But Bushwick has a lot of vultures. And if the vultures don't want it, then it's typically not good. I'll quickly answer this. Usually Southern Republican states don't care about tenant laws. If it's a blue state, it tends to be good tenant laws. If it's a red state, sheriff is coming to kick you out. That's just the reality of it. Have you ever done lease to own deals with your tenants? No, but I've been considering it. I've also been considering owner financing. That might be something that we roll out next year. I see your mentoring videos. Is it international too? Not yet, but I think I might be doing something in Italy, since a lot of my following has come from my Italian investments. So I'm thinking about doing either like a group investment there. I even thought about doing like a Kickstarter on an Italy property. So it's just that I don't speak the language. I'm going to be heavily dependent on my resources, and they work differently than Americans do. A lot slower, a lot different. What business would you start if you had to start all over again without any money, and considering that you are an ENTP? Well, as an ENTP, you're going to be clever enough to figure out money. So money is not really the bottleneck in our lives. If I was starting all over again, I would start I'd probably start a real estate investing fund, and start it properly. I'd work for a fund first, learn the nuances of the business from the fund. I would develop really good relationships with some of the clients. Then I would develop my experience there. I would break out from that fund, start my own fund, and start investing in real estate in that way. Because what you're going to do as an ENTP, you're going to be able to draw the information fast, and you'll be able to understand all the moving parts pretty quickly. But working with the fund will give you a track record that you would be able to sell to future investors. You could say, I worked with X, Y, and Z fund. It was a $50 million fund, $100 million fund. I was responsible for X, Y, and Z. You get your credentials from there. And then you would turn around and say, and I'm launching my own fund. It's going to be a $10 million fund, $5 million fund, $1 million fund, whatever you're comfortable with raising, $50 million, whatever it is. And then I would then deploy the same strategies that worked in my other company. And that's it. You know, that or a niche that they weren't quite covering, but you saw potential in. That's probably what I would do. Oh, the questions don't stop. Chris, would you say it's easier to raise property on a single family home versus multi-unit property as far as raising money? It's going to depend on who you're trying to raise money from. I think multi-family homes help you sell the idea of reduced risk, but multi-family homes tend to be not in the greatest neighborhoods. So it depends on who you're talking to. People who don't care about the neighborhoods and are only looking at yield and risk may say multifamily. People who are like, I don't know about the neighborhood, friends and family types, they might be more likely to buy into single family homes because they see themselves in it. Do you have the same bias for the Bronx like you do Brooklyn? No, actually, my bias for the Bronx was much better because Bronx was like the forgotten borough. It had train access. Prices were depressed back in like 2012, 2013. Things were going for like $100,000, $80,000 a unit. You could find a 4-family in the Bronx end for $320,000. So I started looking at the Bronx. But that market has changed a bit. I still think the Bronx has a long way to go. I like Port Morris. I like Mott Haven, right on that southwest corridor of the Bronx along the river. I think that has a lot of potential. And you see that they're building a lot of mid-rises there now. So, and they rezoned that entire waterline. So what you've seen happen in Williamsburg, Long Island City, all along the waterways is happening right now in Port Morris and Mott Haven. I'm curious about your healthcare business. Do you do mentorship around? No, not yet. You're curious about healthcare. You're curious about real estate. That curiosity will get you stretched. Believe me. Just try to focus really. For anybody here who has come because of Earn Your Leisure or my series on how to start a home care agency, starting and running a healthcare organization that is licensed by the Department of Health, that is receiving Medicare dollars, that is receiving Medicaid dollars, is not an easy game. It's highly regulated. You're dealing with people's lives. The numbers are big. The risk is big too. It's not a game for somebody who, and by game, I mean, it's not an industry for you to just wake up one day and say, hey, that makes a lot of money. Let me try it out. It's something that you should have some industry expertise in. The margins are pretty small. It's not an easy game. All right, guys. Thank you very much for joining me here at ENTP Life. I hope you enjoyed. We're in an hour and 24 minutes. If you are interested in checking out the program, Killing the American Dream, you could go on over to www.entplife.com/Killing the American Dream, or you could just go to that splash page, put in your email, you get more information about it. Or you could go into the comments section below or in the description, and you'll see my Killing the American Dream link. You could click that, check out that program. Like I said, it's as cheap as $97 a month. I really don't even care about that money. What I really care about is building a community of people who are actively interested and ready to invest in real estate. That's really what that program is designed for. I could spread my wings in other cities, really start building out the portfolio a lot faster. Remember, I'm looking to get to 100 million in real estate assets under control and ownership. So this is one of my ways to kind of spread the seeds a little further and get more reach. So check that program out, and I'll see you on Sunday in my next video. Hope all is well. You guys take care. And Amazon just took over a bunch of warehouses in my neighborhood, East New York, Brooklyn. That's cool. You got email me. You got my email. Let me know what's going on with this deal. Is it your property? Is it a family member's property? That helps, obviously, because then, there's more wiggle room there. But if you have something that's interesting, I'm going to take a look at it. But anyway, take care, guys. I'm getting tired. I'm hungry. I got to work out and eat. So bye.